Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to FinTech Festival India's Mumbai Micro Experience. Now, UX or customer experience, for example, has time and again proven that it is the core that holds the good product together and drives it towards the success while maintaining trust. The panel discussion topic is focused on highlighting the reasons why user experience design in FinTech has become such a talking point. In this rapidly changing world, humans are quick to adapt, and so must be the businesses. This is where the user experience design propels the product into a trajectory of success. Now, in this session, we will be discussing the role of user experience design in FinTech, and moderating this panel, we have with us Mr. Amit Bhambre, who is the co-founder and design head of Lemon Yellow. Amit is joined on the panel by Mr. Saurav Sultania, Vice President of ICICI Security, Ms. Niharika Babbar, Senior Digital Manager with Mahindra Finance, Ms. Garima Kaushik, Head of Product with YAP, and Mr. Riju Ray, who is the Chief Business Officer with ID5. With that said, Amit, over to you. The panel is all yours.
Thank you, Amit, from another Amit. Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. My name is Amit. I come from the UX design company called Lemon Yellow. I head the design side of it. I'm also the co-founder and very, very honored to be part of FinTech Festival Mumbai Micro Experience. I had a great time. I had a great time last virtual event in Bangalore where I spoke about emotive design in FinTech, had amazing feedback, had a wonderful session that time. And right now I'm very, very excited and happy to be joined by 4 seasoned industry leaders from FinTech space who also believe in the power of user experience designs while digital products. Let me tell you a bit about this topic. It's going to be very, very simple. As it sounds, our panel will discuss the role and importance of UX design in FinTech, why it isn't essential for the success of FinTech, and how can we drive product through UX. Okay, now I would like to open this panel and ask each one of these esteemed panelists to introduce themselves and have an opening statement from all these guys. Okay, so I'll start with Saurav. Saurav.
Hi, good afternoon, and very excited, Amit, to be here. So thank you for inviting me and the opportunity. I take care. I work with ICICI Securities, and I think many of you would be aware, ICICIdirect.com is amongst the largest brokerage house in India, and these stock markets actually over the last 2 years has become really there's a lot of significant interest amongst the retail investors, among the young investors. And I've been in this business from 17, 18 years now. I haven't seen this kind of interest in stock markets in India. And this topic of user experience, user design, I think this becomes so relevant because when you're getting Gen Z into investing in stock markets, it was earlier supposed to be a financial domain. Then this entire ecosystem really becomes very, very critical. So it's excited to be here, Amit.
Yes, thank you, Saurav. Garima, can you please go next?
Hi, thank you, Amit. Excited to be part of this discussion panel. Myself, Garima, I've been part of the industry for almost 19 years now. I have been fortunate enough to be part of many startups and conglomerates in India and in UAE. Currently, I'm working with YAP, which is a new digital banking application, and we are in multiple countries. UAE is our first hub where we started. In my journey, because I've been part of the FinTech industry for a very, very long time, and I was fortunate to be part of Paytm as one of the founding team members, where I was fortunate to learn about the FinTech from ground zero, right? In today's time, everything is readily available to everybody in the market. But during those in 2010, there was nothing like UX as a concept was there, right? So I have learned the UX importance from that time on was there when FinTech just started in India as a very small seed, right? So I think I'll be able to, share my views on this topic with everybody and learn at the same time from you all. Over to you.
Yes, Garima, thank you so much. So nice to meet you again here. Now I'll ask Niharika. Niharika, can you please?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Niharika Babbar, and I'm part of digital transformation team at Mahindra Finance. Thanks, Amit, for having me on this forum. I have almost 11 plus years of experience working in digital teams of various banks and NBFCs. And trust me, I have seen how UI UX has evolved. Like Garima said earlier, there was no concept per se. In fact, I have worked with startups when the whole ecosystem of apps was evolving. People didn't know what apps were basically. So I've seen the evolution. I've seen how UI UX has become important over a period of time, and it's happy to see that businesses have realized the importance of it. So I'll be happy to share my experience on that through this forum.
Yes, thank you, Niharika. Looking forward now to amazing Riju. I'll request you to come next.
Thank you, Abed. Hi guys, my name is Riju Ray. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Idify. I am on the business side. But at one point of time, when I was at BT, it's about 7 years back, I used to run the life sciences and healthcare product there. And so I have a little bit of DNA with me still, which I carry forward. Today, when I work at Idify, I have about 150 financial services clients, some in banks, some NBFCs, some securities clients, a lot of payment players. And I noticed this sea change that others have talked about. So there was a time when people would have online forms that look just like offline forms, right? You'd have those 5-page forms and you would just make a replica of that, probably because the compliance officers had approved that form, right? To the point where now we see sign-up journeys are really instant. You find how people just click things, and especially the securities websites that I've been to, amazing payment websites too. I find how much of a shift it's really been, right? And I feel sometimes slightly proud that my APIs are powering some of them, and that I'm able to talk to them about conversions. People understand it, they understand drop-offs, and they understand how important it is in terms of loyalty, in terms of making it easy for people to consume services. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Amit.
Thank you, Riju. I think, again, looking forward. So guys, have a look at these 4. I think we've got an amazing panel in front of me. Looking forward to some very interactive session. We are not going to have a question and answers kind of a round. Okay, we are going to have a very open discussions. I will request all our panelists to, whenever they feel like, they can come, comment, and let's have an amazing session here. Okay, so so the topic, as we've already spoken about, is about user experience. Let me put the first question in, which is open for all again. Is how important do you all think is the role of UX while building the fintech products?
So is it directed to somebody, Amit?
No, Garima, I think anybody can start. So it is not directed, it is open question.
Yeah, so I think I'll answer, I add my bit to it. So I believe in fintech, especially when we talk about fintech, we talk about financial markets, right? It can be anything. It can be insurance, it can be banking, it can be anything, right? The user is there because he is hoping to get some value out of this the platform, and they want to experience the whole business life cycle, where his money is also linked in one with the other. Either he's making a payment, he's doing some transaction using your platform, using your app or your services to do some financial activity on your platform, or using a platform to get connected to some third party. So I think the importance of UX there, especially in fintechs, is basically to make customer feel that he is safe. He is safe with you, right? His money is safe with you. So that is very important. And UX plays a very important role, because you will not enter a bank where you find there's no security guard, right? You will not enter a bank where you find it looks very shady. The people sitting out there is not you're not comfortable looking at them. Similar goes for the app itself. If your app doesn't give me the feeling that, okay, these people, they know what they're doing, they understand the markets very well, and that actually can do with UX. And Amit, you are like a very seasoned professional in UX, UI, and we have worked very closely on many applications, financial applications. So it's very important that the design, the UX, the experience, right? I will only use word experience. I never use word UX. I say experience should be such that I, as a customer on any fintech platform, should feel safe. I should feel safe using my cards. right? So UX is a very, very important part. UI is something that is a very different discussion, but UX is, I think, for a customer is the starting point to engage with the online platforms.
Right.
So just to add to what I think Garima spoke about is, and your question, I mean, if you ask me, in this business of equities, stock markets, I think UX is our backbone to our business. I mean, it starts from onboarding a client, and now you would have looked at some numbers. More than 3 million clients are kind of getting onboarded in stock markets a month. I mean, from onboarding them to doing a transaction, buying a stock, the entire experience. If you if you don't have a seamless experience, one, there'll be dropouts, you lose business, and I mean, I can tell you, as a firm and as the industry, this is really revolutionized over last few years.
Right.
And now it's a business lever. It's not just about it's not a given. It's a business lever. If you can create UX, great journeys of customers, you can actually increase your business, significantly. I mean, that's what we've kind of experienced it. So it's, I mean, I would say it's the most critical part on a digital business.
Right.
Yeah, adding on to what Saurav and Garima said, I think when we are dealing with people's money, transparency, trustworthiness, and a sense of security really plays a very important role. And that's where my user experience and UI is just elements adding on to those things that help making the journey feel safe, feel trustworthy. Now we have plethora of apps there in the market, fintech products there in the market, but I would definitely go to an app that kind of gives me a sense of security. In fintechs, you would have seen we tend to ask many questions to the customer, be it his personal information, we are taking his banking account details. Now, as a customer, I will definitely have questions. What are they going to do with this information? All this information they're taking from me, how are they going to use it? Is it safe? What will I get in return? So this is where user experience comes into play. I've seen many journeys which handhold the customer, tell the customer why we are taking this information, what are we going to do with it, and what output can the customer kind of expect. So that's where I feel user experience plays, needless to say, a very important role. We are dealing with people's money. It's their hard-earned money. They want a sense of security. They want transparency. Everybody has this kind of thing in their mind. I am doing all this on the channel. Will there be any hidden costs? Will there be any legal stuff that I will get entangled into later? Now that's where, when you have an interface like an application or any other digital platform, the user experience and the UI elements that you add kind of makes the customer feel secure that he's dealing with some safe entity on the other end. So I think it's very, very important in today's world.
Right, absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about competition as well. I thought it makes sense to sort of put it in context with a small story. So I once had a customer from an NBFC, I can't name, and he was the head of credit digitization. And he came over and he spoke about this nightmare that he was living. So on one side, banks were developing apps and websites, and they had very low interest rates for loans. And on the other side, there were newfangled fintechs who were coming up with amazing apps which had very good interfaces, right? And great experience for the users. And this NBFC felt that they were squeezed on both sides. Actually felt that they couldn't have those interest rates, and they really couldn't actually compete on user experience yet. So they took the call to become more of a fintech, to become more of experience oriented.
Right.
There was really no choice for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think amazing things to do. Saurav, I think you are in a space where, so fintech products are very complex, right? Very, very complex, always complex, and UX helps them make it simpler, right? But what about, building UX while you are catering to two types of users? One, the users who have already been there with you since long, and the others who are Gen Z, probably joining you for the first time. So how do you, what are your views in terms of tackling these?
No, yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, as a firm, this is something which we've kind of, really witnessed since the COVID. that we had, I mean, we started in 2000. We were amongst the first digital firms to start stock brokerage in India. So, and stock markets, when you invest in stock markets, there are a lot of data. There's a lot of information that you look at. You would have seen people actually, having multiple computers. I mean, there's a lot of images that you see around with 2 computers, 3 computers. I'm saying that's like the kind of sophisticated world. And these Gen Z, who, I mean, for them, the world is just buy Zomato, just buy, click, and just. So I'm saying, with that kind of diversity, with that kind of population, it really becomes challenging, because you need to ensure that, your existing clients who used to kind of looking at multiple data points, and the young user will get intimidated, kind of has to get balanced. And I think, one of the approaches that I would say 2 approaches. One, I mean, of the approach is to build minimalistic kind of offering, and then give the ability to personalize, and to as much sophistication you would want. I think that. And second is, when you have to kind of look at this, you have to look at data. I mean, and I think that is kind of really evolving as to what are customers doing on your digital platform. I mean, GA, Hotjar, I mean, people are getting to neuroscience. You're looking at mind mapping customers as to where are they clicking, where are they, their fingers are moving, eyes are moving. So, I mean, just to give you a simple example, we had an order form, buy a stock, you want to buy Zomato, you have to, input 8 fields. And, we kind of move that to 2. Just enter the price and the quantity and just done. Something really is a challenge. And I think that's what a lot of digital firms today are really investing in, that how do you make that simple and sophisticated as well.
Right. Anybody wants to add?
So Amit, I'll add here. So FinTech no more is a need product anymore, right? You have options in the market. Like Niharika said, we have plethora of apps available in the market. So if you're not a need product, right, then UX becomes a very critical part, right? Because then you need to continuously work on engaging with new customers, and at the same time you need to work on your existing base so that they don't leave. You work on the retention piece. So UX works both pre and post customer onboarding, right? And hyper personalization in today's world is the key, right? And again, behind that hyper personalization, there are a lot of AI tools and a lot of ML things are happening, right? That is a given nowadays. You can't do hyper personalization, but UX actually can. When you hyper personalize, you need a good UX which can actually talk to the various segments of the customers, right? In their language. When I say language, I don't mean literally language. I mean how they want you to behave with them, right? So it's a very the apps have become human. The UX is more human nowadays. If you do it right, then it becomes more human. So that customer feel, it's my own way of doing things. So I'm comfortable. And we all live in a world of instant gratification nowadays. We want everything instant. Right. And FinTech, not everything can be instant, but yes, we can give the comfort of, you're not just that far away from getting what you need. So I think, handling the customer of various segments is the key nowadays for FinTech, because you're not a need product. If you're a need product, you will fill 10 forms if required.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Anybody? Guys, do you have anything?
Amit, I'd like to add there. So when you asked about my existing customers and new customers that are coming on board, what I have seen in my experience is the customers that I have are constantly evolving. So say, suppose initially I was targeting a customer base for a particular company that was more rural. Now, with so many apps like Facebook, WhatsApp, people are more comfortable using apps. They are suddenly, I don't really consider them rural. They are digitally well learned. I wouldn't say they are not well learned. So I have seen that the customer personas keep evolving. And one thing that really helps is when we are designing is create these personas. And when we create these personas, we actually understand who are these people, what are cultural and social things that are affecting them. Many things we might consider normal, they don't, okay? I mean, it's a very relative thing when you consider their cultural, social setup. So when we create personas, it helps us understand their needs, how they function, and then we make products according to them. So I think personas really help. Another thing, adding to what Saurav said, data is very helpful. We typically, at least I have in my career, made sure that we are looking at data of the phones people are using. Now, I might make a very fancy, jazzy design user experience, which is really, upmarket and latest as per the design trends and best practices. But if my end users are using very basic or feature phones, it might not render well. So looking at the phones people are using, what network they are on, my design might not really render so well on their phone. So we keep all these things in mind when we are, creating designs for be it my existing user or my new user, what devices they are using, what networks they are on, how will my app function for them, how will they use it, what is their mindset while they're using it. So these things are part of our design approach whenever we are looking into designing products for them.
Right, absolutely. We are talking about user experience. The first word within user experience is users. I always have this, there's always this thin line, in terms of should we build fintech products for the founders or for the customers? I mean, any view on those?
So Amit, this is my favorite topic, and I think most of people, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody here, but yes, I have seen product teams and managers work building a product which makes their CEOs happy, their board happy, their investors happy. Oh, that's their favorite color. Let me use that color in the app. That's the kind of button they want. So let me create something to make them say yes to my product and let me move ahead. But this is not we are in it for, right? As a product manager, we should be honest to our customer. We should be dedicated to the customers, not to the. So I think I shared earlier also with you guys that in my past, one of the company, they asked me to copy a certain app, and I told them straight away, no, that if you need someone to copy somebody's existing app, then you don't need me as a product person. A product person role is to be honest to the customer that he's going to serve using his application, and not build for the investors, because at the end of the day, they're going to see numbers. Be it board or the CEOs or the investor, they're going to see the numbers, and your app will deliver those numbers. So if you build for the investor, then tell them not to look at the numbers. If you build for the customer, then yes, you're going to get numbers, because you are building for the customer. I mean, customer is something you should only think when you're building an app. And when I say app, I don't mean only UX. I'm talking about the complete customer experience end to end, from the day, the minute he downloads his app to the time he interacts with your backend service, like operations or customer service. The end-to-end experience should be seamless, right? So, yeah. Anybody else?
I just want to add one thing. I think there is a lot of synergies or alignments actually, which are getting in what I think the businesses want and what I think customers want. And one of the thing that I've read and actually is see, earlier the sales team was different. So from a business, you engage with sales team because they speak the language. Now the sales team is not the field force. It's actually the guys, the UX guys, the UX guys. They are the salesmen because what they are designing is what the customers are seeing. So I think the alignment is there, and I'm sure I think you are right. There are always dilemmas. It's evolving stuff.
Just I think I just put in a bit of a startup's perspective on it. I feel that unless the founder is on board, it's very difficult to get change. Right? And somewhere Garima is speaking about the consensus and how she fights for as the voice of the user. Saurav's probably seeing the change in culture anyway through the sales team. But at the top, there has to be an appreciation for it. And this sets the priority for things a little bit. And it's very difficult if the organizations actually don't have their DNA or don't understand experience fundamentally to change it. You're actually just going against the tide a little bit. And
right.
Amit, you yourself have faced it a few times, right?
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree.
And what Riju said is very right. The DNA needs to be in sync with what you want to do or how you want to proceed in the market, and not just. So there are two ways of selling. One, you sell what you can, right? That is one way of doing things that traditional banks were doing, right? And the fintechs, what they are doing nowadays is they're selling what is required by the market. So it's a different matrix altogether, right? If you keep selling what you can, then you have a very limited base you're targeting. But if you keep selling or you keep proposing new things to the customer, which is required by them, then you probably have a bigger pie to look at, right?
True,
so that's
true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, Amit, good UI, I think, is a very relative term. What is good to me might not be good to others. And I think that's where the role of a digital product manager comes into play, is to balance it out. You'll have different people in, business teams, different stakeholders who have different perception of a good UI. For me, good UI is always what my end users find easy to use, because if they're not going to use it, it is going to affect my numbers. It is going to affect my business numbers. And I think at the end of it, that's where we come into picture. We try and convince business what works for the user, what does not work, and what will bring them numbers and what doesn't. So I think that's where our role becomes more important, because the perception for a good UI is very different. You can never 100% appease all your audience, because UI is such a relative term.
Right, absolutely. Riju has been into B2C, but now he's been into B2B, Riju. So I was specifically wanted to ask you, in terms of a difference while designing fintech products for a B2C and then, designing it for a B2B, is there any, do we need to draw any line? Is there anything that we can bring into the table from both the experience? What are your, what is your experience so far?
I think if there was a line, it is disappearing. What appears to me is happening right now is a seismic shift. So we would say you would need to have a sales force to meet customers and kind of show them the products and do consultative sales, probably find out different stakeholders, negotiate with them, get a contract in front of them, sign it, right? It's very common these days for business to buy apps and for them to buy APIs. And in some cases, it's shocking to see how, for example, SaaS softwares, right, are bought by large businesses without meeting a single person, right? And they will just design such an experience of onboarding inside such a SaaS software, where an enterprise customer, a business customer, is able to navigate every aspect of the decision making, right? Understand why it makes sense, understand what functionality it is, go ahead and test it even. And then after they've tested it, it's a trial period they'll have, right? And then after that, all of their legal hangups go out the door. It's just misconception. You think that, oh, these contracts, they'll have to go through lots of lawyers and they'll sign it. No, they just go and sign, I approve, I accept, and they carry on. Businesses have dramatically shifted. Sales cycles have become very, very small. People have moved, and the entire notion, I mean, sort of was alluding to it, the salesperson has come on the side of the product person. It's actually happening in reality right now. What's happening is the function of marketing is often working in tandem with sales, that you are able to generate leads, progress them over time, turn them into deals and close them. Now, there's only probably one area where maybe on the business side, you have to be a little bit more careful when you design experiences for businesses. You have to look at aspects of service a little bit more. At a point where you have multiple stakeholders, especially with larger customers, even if they have signed up at a certain point as a customer, as they keep growing in size, the relationships do become important. And being able to manage them across different stakeholders, their tickets, their issues, those experiences also should be designed. And I think from that perspective, if you see, those are probably some of the differences. The other way to think of this problem statement, I think Niharika was talking about the farmers and the agriculture sector, right? There's the MSME sector. Think about the businesses there. Now, the MSME segment is huge. There are like 100 million MSMEs in the country. And these MSMEs, if you have to go after them and convert them, think about going to a Kirana store and trying to do the same sort of stuff. So you are again very close to a consumer. But if you are looking at this MSME and trying to convert them, you still have the business, which is the location, the shop boards, their certificates, the fact that the documents are of a different type and there are quite a few of them. So the challenges are a bit more complicated, really. And sometimes it requires a physical touch point. And so in order to have something that's comprehensive is hard, right? But it's possible. And I think that it's just, it's a matter of having the right perspective about it. It's not about saying, no, businesses, they don't they won't change. It's about accepting that, yeah, they have become like consumers, and then figuring out this sort of combination of, it's not UI anymore, it's a UX really.
Yeah,
Figure out
absolutely.
the entire experience of it.
Right.
Yeah. To add to what Riju just said, while, the companies who are only purely working on B2B segment, but they should be very, very mindful that B2B is going to use your service for an end consumer. So my UX, while I'm building a B2B product, should not be for the business. It should be for the consumer. The UX should always be B2B2C. You are selling to a business, but the user is a consumer, right? So we need to be very, very mindful when it comes to UX or UI for that matter, that it is not going to be consumed by somebody sitting in a corporate office. It is going to be somebody out there in the market who's actually going to buy services from you as a user, right? So there's again a very thin line between a B2C and B2B product, because there will always be an overlap.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. So, this could be our last, question that I wanted to put across. Since we are a fintech community, right? We've been building fintech products across different domains. What are the common challenges that you guys face while incorporating the UX solutions? Any common challenges that you would want to talk about?
So just to, one of the challenges being a financial fintech is that you need to ensure, two things actually. One, the base minimum I'm talking about is the compliance part of it. And not compliance by compliance, but compliance by conscious. That the customer should know your terms when what he's signing up to. If there is a cost that the customer pays, that has to be, the compliance by conscious is very important. And in getting that into the journey at times, becomes a challenge, because or I'm saying something which then has to get weaved in such a way. Let's say terms and condition. You would have seen loan documents being 30 pages. Right now there is a 5 points that you just put up, and the user moves it. So it's very important, that how do you kind of weave that journey, and once you kind of do that, I think the scale can be multiple. I mean, I just give a small example on ICICI Direct. There was a pay later. You buy stocks and you don't have to pay now. It was margin funding. People didn't understand. You just get a small thing in the journey, and the business really doubles. So I think that getting the compliance part in the journey, I think in my mind, so that customers know what they're getting into, is a critical thing to kind of be conscious of.
So, to add to what Saurabh just said, the biggest challenge I think most of fintechs might face, the minute you grow to a certain level, you start thinking like a bank. That, I'm a bank now. So the minute you think you're a bank, you have limited yourself already, right? So then you think of anything on your app with a limited mindset, with limited approach towards the customer problems and giving solutions to them. So I think we as fintech, to have a good app in the market, to have a good experience for the customer in the market, we should think like a fintech, and we should never forget that we are fintech. If you want to become a bank, apply for a license and become a bank, and then you go the way you want out in the market. But if you're a fintech, please don't think like a bank. You are not a bank. You didn't start your business to become a bank. Because the minute you think like a bank, then there are, like Saurabh said, there are a lot of compliance comes to the picture. Compliance are still there in fintech, but there are a lot of gray areas in that side still in, I think, almost every country, not just India or UAE where I've worked, but there are a lot of countries that I'm working with. They have a lot of gray areas in terms of fintech, because they're still not clear what we are going to make out of the fintech going forward in the next 5 or 10 years. I think they're still figuring it out. So I think the biggest challenge that becomes our roadblock in fintech is that after 1 year or 2 years, the minute we acquire 1 million customers, so we think that we're too big and now we have to think like bank, and but we lose the customer focus, and this is where my UX gets affected. So my challenge wherever I worked is always keeping people in line for the product, that no, we are working for the customer. compliance is important, 100%. I'm all out there. Compliance is the key to serve to the customer. But yes, your UX is about the customer. It is not about for a bank or any government or anybody else. It's for the customer.
Right. So compliance may sometimes overpay, right? So that is something that I have noticed.
Yeah.
You know, we do sometimes worry. I mean, as a product owners, we do worry a lot about compliance and not about the UX of it.
Right.
Yes,
That's
yes.
true. That's true. Yeah.
I'll add my 2 cents to it as well. So I feel that the tough part for me is often sort of balancing convention with differentiation. So, you know, there is a certain sort of expected look and feel for an app. There's probably a incumbent out there who's designed a certain app, and you know, like probably Garima mentioned a while back, there's a founder who's seen that app and wants that, right? So then of course you've got your own strategy, your own cohorts of customers to go after it. You know, you want to make it different as well. But if you do that, often the user may not understand that difference too, because they are habituated, the convention has been created. You know, you can't go too far away as well, right? So that journey of designing something which is okay, different, important to sort of your customer base, and you know, it's sort of strategic to you in terms of the way you will grow, is hard. And to do that while not sort of completely getting out of the conventional thinking, so that the user can understand it too, is very hard as well.
So disruption is something that you guys believe in FinTech while designing? I mean, or you guys will still feel that we should go to the traditional?
It's the most abused word in FinTech, disruption. It has already happened and done with. We have already done a lot of disruption already for the customers. We have shaken up all the central banks across the world, and they are worried when it comes to FinTech and disruption. They are worried with the disruption word itself. Yeah, but yes, disruption will always be there. Every year somebody will come with some great idea and you will say, oh wow, I've never thought of this idea before, right? But yes, people will come up with great ideas. There will always disruption, because the more customer gets educated, the more they expect out of you. And the education is there. We are all online, right? So that's great.
Right. And Niharika, do you want to add?
Yeah, one challenge at least I have faced is, of course, like Riju mentioned, getting all the stakeholders or convincing them that sometimes we need a redesign or a revamp, because, kind of quantifying why a UI UX change is needed and how will it benefit gets a little tricky. But once you have convinced, the next challenge comes is when you do a redesign, your customers are already used to the old design. So there are always teething issues. Customers might, if you've tested your design, there are high chances that it will work well, but there are always teething issues because, they have to unlearn what they already know. So, some customers will still come back saying, this is getting a little difficult now. It takes a little bit of time to, for them also to get used to it. So I think what has worked, at least for me, is whenever you do something new, a redesign or a revamp, handhold your customers, do demo videos, do how-to videos, handhold them a bit, and obviously test your designs with those customers, so that you don't get a surprise after you launch it. So you are already well prepared of what they are expecting. So always, I have seen this, any kind of change, there is always resistance, even if the change is for good. And but it has to be handled in a certain way, and then things go well.
Right. So I think we also have questions coming in from the ones who are attending this session. Very interesting one, which I would want to put it, is from Raghuram. Again, he is talking from a merchant side of it. So, all these small, medium merchants may integrate API products for enabling payments on their web, right? These API products definitely require some knowledge curve, right? So, as a merchant, I need to understand. So how do we smoothly onboard merchants in this regard is the question. And anybody can.
I'll try this one.
Yeah.
And others can join in as well. So see, I think that API integration, right, it has to be first looked at from a design perspective. So what I mean is that you can have very tough APIs to begin with. So if you have many APIs that are needed, and they themselves are tough to integrate with, your documentation will not be able to solve a lot of that. It has to be simple to begin with. So when you make APIs, that's where it begins, the experience. You have to make an API that's simple to integrate. You have that goal in mind. Then you consider your product from the perspective of ease of integration go live, especially in the case of payments and MSMEs. You start with the first question, which is how do I make it easy to integrate? You don't start with the answer, which is its functionality is great and the payment works. You start with the question of integration itself.
Right.
Once you start with that design principles, then the rest of it, we know, we've read all these books about design, and it begins with sort of how you display information, in a concise manner, how you have documentation which is easily available, how you give feedback to the user when you allow him to test things. Those are the aspects that keep coming in that you can integrate into it, but starts with the design, really, is my feeling.
All right.
So, Amit, when it comes to the merchants, especially the small merchants, right? So we should understand, see, whatever you're building, you should first read your customer very well. Be it B2B, B2C. The merchant base that we talk about, be it a small mom and pop shop to a kirana store in some village, or some vegetable vendor, they all are very smart. Whenever it comes to money, people are very smart because it is their money and they know how to get their things done to get their money back from whoever they're dealing with. So the merchant base, again, whenever you're dealing with a merchant, integration is one piece. Yes, APIs integration need to be smooth, it should be easy, it should be plug and play rather, right? But at the same time, we should not forget that the base that we are serving, for them, merchant is not just about the integration. That is, post-integration experience is very important for them, because integration is one-time thing. Post-integration, how you're going to settle them, how you're going to service them, if they have any issue with your payment services, how you're going to handle it immediate basis, because they're also dealing with somebody else's money. That person is not only having issue with their own businesses, but they're facing the customers out there, and the customer, if they have made some payment on their platform and some issue happens, they need refund, there's a chargeback. How your UX handles those kind of services post deployment is very, very key for such merchants, because I work in B2B space as well. I've worked in the past with all sort of merchants, big and small both. And the onboarding piece, like Paytm has already done it successfully. With one small QR, you can onboard yourself as a merchant. As simple as that. So we need to make it very, very simple even for people who are not educated enough to use the services.
Great. All right, I think we can take the last one, which is about gamification. So UX and gamification go together. Is there any views in terms of, the younger ones talking about the gamification in FinTech? Any views, Saurav, Niharika?
Yeah, I think, just to add from the field that I come in, in stock markets more so, people, because, youngsters are getting into markets, so much. And, I can tell you just to give an example that, people today just, talking to you, they go out for a cigarette and they'll take a trade. And the moment they, they just finish off, they close the trade and they come back. So I'm saying it's the entire, ecosystem of a transaction, which was supposed to be so complex, has become like touch and trust trade. And it's almost like a game, which kind of gets played. But herein, the kind of experiences or the kind of, UX that you give to enable some kind of transactions can really uplift your business. I can tell you, we had a very small feature called cloud, wherein, people used to buy stock, they used to enter price, quantity, everything. And we just saved that for the user. And all they did was buy sell, and kind of really, multifold we kind of saw. So I'm saying this absolutely with you. I think gamification has various manifestations. It is something which firms, who adopt early will see a lot of kind of, I think, user acceptance.
Right. Yes, Niharika, you want to?
Yeah, so I have two views about it. So of course, gamification is again one of the latest buzzwords. And even, I have seen good use cases, for gamification, but I always feel that, okay, it's what is the end thing that I want to achieve with gamification? It is to engage my customer and give him some kind of instant gratification or reward that, he's done something, he gets something instantly. But I also feel whenever we're talking about gamification, just because it's a latest buzzword, we as product owners, we first look at the use case. Does it make any sense for my customer also in the journey that I'm drawing for him? If it does, yes, it's a good to have thing. It will drive your customer engagement. But I have also seen that just because everybody else is doing it and it's the latest buzzword, let's also do it. So this is again one of the challenges. Going back to the question you said, we face that let's do something in the name of innovation, whether or not it makes sensible use case for my customer. So yeah, if it makes a good use case, definitely it's a good engagement tool for your end users.
Right. One last question. I think let's take it from Vikram Gidwani. So he's asking, there's a lot of friction in the customer's user experience these days. Shouldn't FinTech explore new age technologies that stop fraud without impacting user experience? So this could be.
FinTechs are already doing it, Amit. FinTechs are already doing it. Fraud is one area. Risk and fraud, AML, everything is one piece that FinTech cannot go live without. FinTech cannot even think doing anything, any services, taking service live on their platform without thinking on those parameters. And when we talk about new age technologies and services, I think FinTech's already on it. You pick up any new FinTech, any new app in the market, they're already on it. And yes, the more smarter you become as a FinTech, the fraudster becomes smarter than you are. Right, so they are always one step ahead of you, and you have to again have this, race with the fraudster and with your platform. It is a everyday job for everybody, and I think fintechs are doing it. And Vikram, just to answer this, don't worry about it. Your money is safe with the fintechs. Fintechs do take care of all these aspects in business, and I think that's already there. Yeah, don't worry about that.
I sense the pulse of the question really. What he's saying, I think, sorry, Garima, I think what he's saying is that in order to protect from fraud, they're introducing a lot of friction.
Yes.
Is what he's saying.
No, it's not that. I think we are not adding friction as a fintech to safeguard our customers. I think we are simplifying using the UX, the friction, so that our customer doesn't feel the impact. Right. At the same time, we're taking care of all the aspects of the frauds and AML and other things.
That's right.
I think this is what. Yeah.
I feel that there are certain sites that I have seen that actually do a lot of sort of extra documents, etc. And sometimes I sympathize with the question here, that there are actually lots of ways to detect fraud that need not be as intrusive. So as long as compliance is taken care of, there are things information that you can gather, such as somebody's email address, their phone number, their IP address, their location, various signifiers, etc., that you collect anyway. If you use information that you collect, you do not need to have so much friction, because you may know a lot of the things from that.
Right. So the journeys are probably becoming longer because we are adding friction to it. Yes. Users are reaching towards the end goal little late. Why? Because product owners are worried about let them let them make safer. Let's not have a fraud in place. So the journeys, they're adding those additional extra things which are making users little unhappy.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Garima. I think you were saying something.
Yeah, I was saying that sometimes, because we are facing it in everyday basis here in where I'm working, that we need to actually collect some documents for certain cases where there's a red flag. There you ask customer certain documentation to prove that transaction or prove the identity, whatever, right? And that is in favor of the customer. We are trying to safeguard this transaction. We are trying to remove the bigger problems later on, right? We're trying to avoid such problem. That is why such frictions are required. I think you can't let go of these things, at least in today's time. No, we cannot let go of such issues.
Right. I think that is where I think we should also end. Thank you so much, Niharika, Saurav, Garima, Riju. Thank you for your time. We all agree. I think the panelists are, we all believe that users are still the center. We have to keep users in the center and build the entire experience. And that is what will matter. I always say, and I believe you guys will agree. So it's not fintech. I always say that the word is finted, and D stands for design. And that's what is something that I always advocate. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Amit, and many thanks to all of our panelists for joining us today in this session, despite their busy schedules as well. With that, it is time for us to move to our next innovation talk, which is on a new generation of SME banking. Do stay with us, and we will be right back with you. Thank you.
5 मिनट में अकाउंट सेटअप और ट्रेडिंग शुरू। हाँ कर सकते हैं। नहीं कर सकते। लगी शर्त और हारा तो It's possible with CoinSwitch Kuber. Download करो और Bitcoin trading start करो. CoinSwitch Kuber. सिक्का चमकेगा.
Cryptocurrency is an unregulated digital asset, not a legal tender and subject to market risks and price fluctuation risk.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.
Welcome to Fago, a pioneer in the world of intelligent open finance. With our full-stack open finance platform, we enable companies to understand their users' financial behavior across various use cases, making finance engaging and actionable. Fago's developer-friendly product stack helps clients with friction-free user onboarding and authentication using trusted account information. Connect and aggregate your users' banking transaction data from any source, either any of the account aggregators or directly from any core banking solution at flexible intervals. Enrich and categorize transaction data using machine learning algorithms to extract deep behavioral attributes of your users. Understand and act on real-time insights powered by your users' behavior for a variety of use cases ranging from lending, wealth, income verification, frauds, to even branding and marketing insights. Engage with your users by embedding our personal finance management SDK in your existing user-facing app to push positive financial habits and personalize financial insights to your users. If you are looking to engage or understand your user base's financial behavior to take informed decisions, Fago is your perfect partner. With the complete Fago suite, you can now capture what drives your users at every stage of their journey and use it to drive your growth. Plug into Fago and let us do the heavy lifting for you.